going in just on this LeBron James nonsense and put my 2 cents in. He's kind of like if you've ever had somebody, I'll even use myself as an example, who's past their prime as a mechanic. Since I've gotten injured, I might have been one of the top mechanics in the country, which I was. That's not a brag or me patting myself on the back. That's just a cold hard fact. But after getting injured, getting hurt, I'm not the best mechanic anymore. I'm not top 10% of the country anymore. I realize that there's younger guys out there. We hope, for the most part, that we're able to fill in that void, that gap that individuals like myself have left behind. Same with LeBron. There's people that have come and taken over that crown, that title, that face, that shine, that limelight, that celebrity. Whether or not you're still a draw because you're in LA, that's regardless and irrelevant. The fact is, nobody is going to build a franchise around somebody that's at the end of their career, going into 23 seasons or whatnot, 41 years old at the end of the year. It's nothing that's too hard to figure out. We're not splitting atoms here. This isn't quadratic equations. It's not brain surgery. It's nothing like that at all. It's pretty simple. There's somebody else that's going to take your spot. This happens to everybody, period. But if you wanted to prolong your legacy, you shouldn't have been greedy and taking a pay cut. Still got paid plenty of money, but having talent around you where you could actually compete and make something of this next season coming up and had a future with the Lakers, because the Lakers, they're going to be done with you. That writing's on the wall. LeBron, you can't be number one team guy and talk about team mentality and team this, and then you get a new teammate, even though it's DeAndre Ayton, and not giving him any kind of welcome, any kind of nothing, just because it's pouting. You can't be like that. That's the way that you've always been, and that's the way that you always want to pout and complain. You remind me of like a bitter ex-girlfriend. Just, enough's enough. The antics, the nonsense, that's why I don't respect you. I'm not going to sit here and dwell on you and make shows about you and sit here and knock you, even though I can. But that's not where I want to go. That's not what I want to do. I don't have a show that revolves around LeBron James as an underwhelming career over 23 years. Only 6 All-NBA, all defensive teams, 5 of them being first team, 23 seasons. Stop. When did you even have your time? When did you dominate the league? When the Spurs were winning championships? When the Lakers were winning championships? When the Warriors were winning championships? You've got 4 championships to your name in a course of 23 years. That's underwhelming. I understand you had a lot of pressure coming out of high school. They've been shoving your name, your face, and everything else since you were a young man. It's a lot to live up to. I understand that. But at the same time, listen, you didn't live up to it. Underwhelming. You're Karl Malone with rings. You don't have a bag. You're not a team player as you claim to be. You're a hypocrite, and I'll call you out on it every chance I get. I've been watching basketball, whether it be NBA or otherwise, since I came to this country, and I've been here for, 46, 47 years. I've been watching basketball ever since I can remember being a young kid. First thing I was doing was watching basketball and then participating. I didn't play organized basketball. In team sports, I played football, and I did individual sports like wrestling and boxing. My son, he's the basketball guy. He's the one who balls. And, I wish him nothing but the best. But he also has a bright future ahead of him. I'm not telling you he's going to be in the NBA or NCAA Division I or anything like that, but the kid's got talent. But back to LeBron, like I said, you can't sit here and complain that the Lakers aren't doing this or doing that for you, and then try to take away from the entirety of the rest of the NBA and basketball as a whole to try to get that spotlight back on you. That's just some narcissistic shit right there. It checks off every box of a narcissist. And that's exactly the way you portray yourself and the way you come off, and that's just the way you've been throughout the course of your career as far as I'm concerned. I've been watching you. I've seen you play. You got excuses, and then you got other people that you like to throw under the bus, and that's the way your career's been. That's what they think about you. That's how they're going to remember you. The longer you play, the worse it's going to get. I don't know why you can't understand that, why that's so difficult for you to put piece together, but that's the part of the problem. You should just stick to one job, being a basketball player, not try to reorganize rosters or tell team owners and executives, general managers, coaches how to do their job. You worry about what your job is, and that's to be on the court, to score points, to play defense. That's your job. That's all your job is. The Lakers did a lot for you, more than any franchise I've seen cater to another individual, between building a roster around you when they shouldn't have. They listened to you and got players that they shouldn't have gotten, with very few exceptions. They let go of players that they should have kept around because of you. They got other players because of you, like little Bronny, even though I'm not going to get on him, but he shouldn't be in the NBA. Like I said, playing in the G League, Summer League, and still not being able to really be all that impressive and stand out doesn't say much about you. You didn't do too bad against the Mavericks, but you didn't blow anybody's socks off either, so keep that in mind and keep that in consideration. It's just something that's a fact. I watched the game. I've been watching the games. The only reason I'm not watching them right now is I had to take a break so I can go get some medication. But aside from that, like I said, LeBron and the Lakers and their tensions shouldn't be the storyline of the summer of the NBA or anything else. You got plenty of other players that you could talk about that are current players in the NBA that are well worth discussing, much more so than LeBron James. That's a fact. And if you don't realize that, then you haven't watched enough ball to understand what you're seeing. And if you think LeBron's that guy, the greatest player ever, then you don't know basketball, or you've been manipulated and lied to by the media enough to where you start believing those lies. The next thing you know, they become your truth, even though they're based on a false narrative. A house of cards falls pretty easy, you know what I'm saying? But in the world, got plenty of accolades. There's no reason for him to be greedy. Kobe never left any money on the table, but Kobe also didn't ask and get 50 plus million in his last year. He got half of that, but Kobe's a whole nother animal. I don't even want to put the two of them in the same conversation. You want to compare LeBron to somebody, like I said, Karl Malone without the rings. That's LeBron James. A couple dribbles, then get your steps in, drive to the basket. Over the years, you've developed a bit of a jump shot, kind of a mid-range, an unreliable three-point game. You don't play defense. You don't play both ends of the court. You don't demonstrate, in my opinion, what a true champion, what a true leader should do each and every game, each and every season, without excuse. The greats don't make excuses. They just come back and let their game do the talking. Nobody calls themselves the greatest. Nobody crowns himself a king. You're not Napoleon over here trying to be Caesar. All right? Cut it out. Just stop it. Be thankful that you've had a long, relatively injury-free career. No major injuries or no real injuries that you've ever been honest about, and hope for the best as far as your son and your other son go. I don't get on them a whole lot because, like I said, I'm not here to pick on kids. They're still learning. They've got a lot to learn and develop. A guy like you needs to be out there trying to coach and do things to that next level of that next chapter, if you will, of your career, which should, at this point, be nothing more than saying goodbye and getting into something else. Go play some pickup ball. You know what I'm saying? Go to Rucker out in New York and play some ball with them cats. You know, spend time with family, do your family thing. If you want to be involved with franchises and basketball, start your own. You got the money. Put a little league together like Ice Cube and the Big Three. You got options. Don't limit yourself, LeBron, but don't try to lie to yourself either. Try to say that you are the best player in the world, that you're the greatest player ever, and that you're still that guy, because you were never that guy, and you're not that guy now. So it's time to go, LeBron. Quit acting like a lunatic. Quit exposing yourself as a crybaby, narcissist. Pick your lumps and move on. That's simple. Guys, thanks for joining me again. I'm going to cut this up once I get back to the house. And I wish you all nothing but the best. Peace, love. Have a great Saturday. Have a great weekend. Love you all. If you haven't done so already, don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, share, notification. It means a lot to me. You guys have really made a big difference in this channel's growth, and I want to keep it going, building this community up. So thank you all once again. We'll talk again soon. Peace. Thank you all for tonight. Thank you all for tuning in. Appreciate it. I appreciate the support, the love, spending more time on this platform as opposed to going live on all the others. But once again, you know, basketball is basketball. The problem that I keep on seeing every time something pops up on my feed, it's about LeBron James, LeBron James, LeBron James. Has anybody thought just for a moment to consider the fact maybe that 52 million he can rub on whatever is hurting him and make it feel better? Maybe the possibility that his wounds, his injuries, his discourse, his issues with the Lakers are all self-inflicted. What exactly should anybody feel sorry for when it comes to this guy? I don't understand. And how he keeps dominating the headlines, I don't understand either. Hell, he's got me over here talking about him, and I don't even like the guy. I don't like the guy. But I give him credit where credit is due. He's a top 25 player. And that's saying a lot, because there's a lot of great players that we go, and we mainly talk about basketball history and the greats, the forgotten ones, the ones that don't get the respect that they deserve. But when you got a guy that continuously, non-stop, like it's a, you know, like a soap opera. You just can't get enough, you know. You got so much other things to talk about in the NBA, whether it be the Summer League, whether it be the debut of Cooper Flag, which is somehow trying to be overshadowed by the Lakers. I get it. They're trying to get the largest market in LA over here. So you got viewership, yada, yada, yada. That's fine. But at the same time, be realistic. And as far as, you know, the rest of the games thus far, they've been entertaining. Nobody, like I said, has been lights out, unbelievable then again, what you see here in the G League and the Summer League doesn't necessarily translate to what you're going to see once the actual NBA kicks off. You're going to see a lot of these guys come and go, and you'll never see them again. And some of them you might see overseas. Some of them you might see in the Big Three. Some of them you might see in the G League, like Mac McClung, permanently, you know. But that's a different story altogether. But when it comes to LeBron, I mean, what do you want? You can't have things both ways. You can't drive a car in forward and reverse and then sit here and complain that you're not a priority. Well, you're not going to be a priority. Nobody at your advanced age, I'm not saying that you're in bad shape or anything like that. You're an athletic phenom. Nobody's taking that away from you. But at the same time, nobody is going to invest in you. You're not like, you know, a 64 and a half Mustang. You know what I'm saying? You're not. You know, anybody that's sitting here trying to push that narrative or that lie, rather, that you are somehow the greatest player is A, not informed enough, B, hasn't watched enough basketball, and C, is lying to themselves, you, and anybody that's crazy enough to listen to that psychobabble. Nobody would ever take any of that serious because it's seriously not true. And I don't have to name players because there's so many of them that we can go on and on. I can give you my top 10 and he's not in it, and you can say whatever you want about my top 10. And I would love to hear your comments, so I'll give them to you. Number 1 through 5, and they're in no particular order. These are just 5 individuals. You can put them in whatever order you want, but I got Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Bill Russell, Will Chamberlain, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, or Lou Alcindor, however you know him. Same guy, just one's outspoken and his political advocacy, etc. He got a lot of hate for that too, in case you weren't aware, but that's a different story and a different time for a different show. And I didn't plan on going live twice, but now that I got, thankfully, enough subscribers, thanks to you wonderful people, which I appreciate and care for and respect very much. So thank you. Please continue to hit that subscribe, like, share, notify. And I'm going to continue to put out lives, chop them up, get people on here that like to talk sports, basketball, football primarily. But I'm not opposed to other sports and other topics either. But back to it. So the point that I'm trying to make is my top 5 has never changed since I've watched enough basketball and seen enough of these guys to say that that is a solid top 5. My 6 through 10 is going to consist of Magic, Kobe, Shaq, TD, or Tim Duncan, the big fundamental, and the Dream, Hakeem, or Hakeem, depending on the name change, Olajuwon. There's 1 through 10 right there. And you're going to tell me that LeBron James is better than my 1 through 5 or my 6 through 10? I'm going to say no, he is not. He isn't. No. He's played a considerable amount longer, and he's not the oldest player. I believe that was Kevin Willis, if I'm not mistaken, that played a lot longer, and, an Iron Man. Karl Malone was an Iron Man, and like I said earlier, LeBron James is Karl Malone with rings. That's it. You got 2, 3, 4 dribbles tops, a couple steps, plus a couple more steps that nobody ever really talks about, but I didn't miss them. I know they were there. I'm just saying, and not making it up. Real shit, real talk. I don't get paid by Clutch Media, so I don't have anything to lie or hide or make up. Therefore, what I say is truth, it's the facts, it's honest. And like I said, I'm just letting you know that if you want to really understand basketball, and in particular the NBA, you got to go back and see all the contestants, all the contenders, everybody that's competing and has competed, and then you could have an honest evaluation, and based on what your criteria may or may not be of what would quantify somebody to be in that top 10, top 15, top 20, top 25 of all time, of all the people that play the game of basketball. There's no disrespect to that. There's a big difference between the top five guys, even, going to the top 10, and then my 11 through 15. It's a wild mix up of guys that you probably wouldn't think that would be in there, but you're going to have LeCheck in there or Hondo. You're going to have guys like Bob Pettit in there. Absolutely. You're going to have Jerry West in there. There's no doubt. You're going to have Bob Cousy in there. Absolutely, without a doubt. And you're going to have, you guys are going to think that I'm wild, think that I'm crazy, but you got to go back, look at history, and understand who you're dealing with. You're going to have Kevin McHale right there with them. So I might be a little bit biased when it comes to my team. I'm a Celtics guy, but you're talking about an all-time great two-way player, Kevin McHale, that you can depend on nonstop. And the way that I look at it, it was either going to be McHale or I was going to put Isaiah in there. And you know what? Unlike the NBA in the last couple, in the last 5 years when they could have won a co-MVP, I'm going to go ahead and put Isaiah and McHale in that co spot through the 11 through 15. So mathematically, you can call me motherfucking Terrence Howard all you want. I realize I added an extra person, but it's been tearing me up for a long time, and they both deserve where they're at. So they're both in there. But like I said, Havlicek, Kuzi, I could have a whole list of top guys all named Bob. Bob Lanier, Bob Cousy, Bob McAdoo, Bob Pettit, Bob Ori. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those deals that the more you know, the more you've seen, the more you understand, the more you appreciate where things have come from and where we're at today in way of basketball in general. So it's important as far as the history goes. Another thing is, why do they call me Mad Max? Well, I'm reserved for the most part, unless provoked. In which case, everything's off the table. Because I go from zero to batshit crazy without even knowing it. And that's just one of those things. And this, it's gray, but the rest, the party part, it's full. It's got plenty of color. It's crazy. I don't do anything wild with it. But over here, it's like, you start at the bottom and work your way up. I don't know. It's one of those things. And I'm down in the studio over there, and I didn't feel like pulling this one up because I got to do an update on that laptop over here. But, yeah. Then, you're like, why don't you have Maravich on there? The reason I don't have Maravich, and in case, here we go, a little NBA history for you. Pete Maravich is the only player that I can think of right now, short of like, you got your Jackie Robinson, whose number is universally retired in baseball. So I don't believe it's limited, or I believe it's limited to just baseball. I don't believe it's any other sport, but if I'm wrong, please correct me on that. I don't follow baseball that closely, with the exception of the Royals that aren't doing all that great, so there's not much to talk about with the Royals. But what I will say is this: there, excuse me, there's Pete Maravich, and if you didn't know, Pete Maravich, who passed away almost, in a prophetic type of way, to where, he predicted his own death, if you want to look at it in those terms, which I don't believe that he did or he chose to do or go out the way that he did, though he probably went out the way he did want to go out, playing a game of pickup basketball after becoming a very religious man that's close to the Lord, and now he's with the Lord. So if you believe that to be the case, which I do in all my heart, then good for you, and God bless Pete Maravich. May he rest in peace, along with many other greats like Junior Bridgman that a lot of people don't give credit to. But back to Pete Maravich, one of the only players that I can think of that has his number and jersey retired by three different organizations. Three different organizations: the Atlanta Hawks, okay, the Utah Jazz, all right, and the New Orleans Pelicans. Fact. Just saying. Well, guys, 15 minutes. I know it's not as fancy as when I'm in the studio or one of the other computers where I'm on the StreamYard, but I didn't feel like setting it up, and it's a whole lot easier to just push a couple buttons on this and just go live. But when I do get animated, you'll know. And I'm not out here to sit here and argue. I would love a debate with anybody, and anybody is always welcome on my show, on my channel. No issues, no problems, nothing but hate. Listen, no hate. That's what I'm talking about. If you're all about trying to hate on something or somebody, then I don't need that in my life. I got enough problems without that, just like anybody else. All right, I'm a human being. You respect me, you show me respect. I'll do the same with you. But thank you all once again for your subscription, for your viewership, for everything that you do. And all I can say now is have a good evening. Be careful, be safe out there. Nothing good happens past 2 a.m. If you got young ones, make sure you know where they're at and what they're doing. And be mindful in general of what's going on in their lives, because it's your responsibility ultimately to take care of them, teach them right, and make sure that they don't do dumb shit. Okay? Otherwise, guys, nothing but love, sending good vibes all your way. Be good, and I'll talk to you again soon.